Used to think cruelty had to be loud, shouting, slamming doors, public scenes that made everyone uncomfortable enough to take sides. Was the version of drama my father seemed to expect from me. So when his birthday invitation arrived on my phone, forwarded through my sister, clipped and impersonal, I didn't react the way he probably imagined. The message was short. Hairs only. No dead ends. Don't bring your daughter. I read it 3 times before I understood that it wasn't a joke. Then once more, slowly. Maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something less sharp. They didn't. My daughter was 10. Bright, curious, endlessly forgiving in ways I still hadn't learned. She adored her grandfather, drew him cards, saved stories to tell him, asked why he never came to her school events, why he always had meetings. When she performed, I'd always said, "He's busy," was easier than saying, "He doesn't know how to love you properly." The phrase, "no dead ends," stayed with me. It wasn't new, was something he'd said my whole life, just dressed up differently. Don't waste time. Don't settle. Don't associate downward. When I chose public service over private finance, he called it temporary confusion. When I married someone without money, called it idealism. When my marriage ended, he called it proof. And when I became a single parent, stopped pretending altogether, I typed my response carefully. "I won't be coming." Nothing else. No explanation. No accusation. No appeal. A few minutes later, his reply arrived. "Good. We don't need your drama." I stared at it longer than I'd stared at the invitation, drama, for choosing not to bring my child somewhere she wasn't wanted, for declining an event that had already disqualified me, for not pretending. After that, something in me went quiet. Not numb, not angry, settled. 2 days later, I had a meeting downtown. It had been scheduled weeks before, unrelated to birthdays or family. A small policy discussion with a visiting delegation and the governor, part of a long project I'd been coordinating quietly for over a year. No press, no ceremony, just work. We were meeting at a restaurant near the river, one of those places where conversations stay low and waiters move like shadows. The kind of space where nothing dramatic ever really happens. When I arrived, the host checked his tablet and smiled politely. "Is ready," he said. I almost corrected him. Almost said, "Any table is fine." But it was ready, reserved, official. So I followed him. The table overlooked the water. Soft light, enough space for documents and plates. Discreet privacy, exactly what the governor's office preferred. I set my folder down and exhaled. Then I noticed the decorations. Small banner near the back, balloons, a cake stand being arranged. Birthday. My stomach tightened. I didn't know it was his restaurant. Hadn't checked. It hadn't mattered. Now it did. For a moment I considered leaving. Texting my assistant. Inventing a scheduling issue, walking out before anyone saw me. It would have been easy. It would have been familiar. I stayed. The meeting began quietly. Coffee, greetings, updates. The governor arrived 10 minutes later, shook hands, asked about my daughter by name. "How's her science project going?" he said. "Still building," I replied. "She refuses to rush." He smiled. "Good instinct." Through our discussion, I noticed movement near the entrance. My father had arrived. He looked proud. Expensive suit, confident posture. The man who believed he belonged everywhere he stood. He scanned the room. Eyes passed over me once without recognition. Then stopped, returned, fixed. I felt it before I saw it. Slight shift when certainty collapses. He didn't come over. He stood there, confused, watching me speak to the governor, as if trying to fit the image into an old mental map that no longer matched. A few minutes later, The governor stood. "Before we continue," he said, "let me greet someone." He walked around the table and extended his hand to me. "Always good to see you," he said. "Your work on the housing initiative has been invaluable." "Thank you, sir," I replied. Then my father was suddenly beside us. Too close, too hesitant. The governor turned. "And you are?" he asked warmly. I answered before my father could. "This is my father!" I said his name, no emphasis, no edge, just fact. The governor's face brightened with recognition. "Of course," he said. "I've heard about you. You raised one of our most dependable people." He shook my father's hand. "Thank you for that." My father opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He nodded once, then again, as if agreement might substitute for speech. I watched his face carefully. There was no anger in it, no humiliation, just disorientation, as if he'd walked into a version of reality he hadn't prepared for. After that, the meeting continued. No one mentioned birthdays. No one mentioned invitations. No one mentioned dead ends. Later, when our group dispersed and his guests were distracted by cake and photos, he approached me. Slowly. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "Telling you what?" I replied. "That this." He gestured vaguely. "Your position. Your connections." I thought about it. "Think it mattered?" I said. He frowned. "Of course it matters." "To whom?" I asked. He didn't answer. We stood there, surrounded by soft music and polite laughter. "I didn't mean it the way it sounded," he said finally. I nodded. "I know," I replied, which was true. He had meant it the way he always did. Practical, hierarchical, conditional. "Just don't want you wasting potential," he added. "I'm not," I said. He looked at me then, really looked. Not as a disappointment, not as a liability, as a stranger he hadn't studied enough. "What about your daughter?" he asked quietly. "She's fine?" I said. "She knows where she's wanted." He flinched at that. Not dramatically. Just enough. We didn't hug. We didn't resolve anything. We didn't promise change. We said goodbye. That night, I picked up my daughter from my sister's house. She ran to me, chattering about a card game she'd invented. "Did Grandpa like his present?" she asked. "I'm not sure," I said. "Oh," she replied, then shrugged. "It's okay. I liked making it." On the drive home, I thought about how power rarely looks like winning. Looks like not rearranging your life around rejection. It looks like showing up where you're needed. It looks like being introduced without needing to announce yourself. My father still sends me polite messages now. Asks about work, asks about school. He hasn't apologized. Maybe he never will, but he listens differently. I no longer need him to understand me in order to respect myself. That, I've learned, is the quietest kind of victory.